My 29-year-old female, sister-in-law, 40-year-old female, and I used to be close a while back. My brother, her husband, is older than me, and she had been with him for as long as I can even remember. When my son was born, she was awesome, and actually watched him like a nanny for 3 months with pay after I went back to work. I kept a close relationship with her and my brother, but then work took me across the country. They were sad about it as they were both close to my family, my toddler. She and my brother would come to visit us every few months. Now the problem? 3 years ago, my husband and I started having marriage issues, and we were on the verge of divorce. It got pretty rough. We both started resenting each other. There was a period where I started drinking too much, arguing all the time, etc. Fortunately, though, we went to counseling and were able to reconcile, and the drinking stopped as well. As we were recovering from this near divorce, I picked up his phone because I noticed sister-in-law's name pop up in his messages. We haven't ever hidden our phones from each other, and we know each other's passwords, so I didn't think twice about opening her message. I came to find that throughout our whole several-month fighting period, he was texting her, and she was in agreement with how horrible I was. She said a lot of terrible things like how I was a liar, a bad mother, a crappy excuse for a wife, and how she was going to support him through the divorce, how he needed to document everything, and not to tell me that she was telling him all of this because she was afraid I would restrict her access to my son and it would break her heart. In one message, she was saying she would fly to our house to take our son home with her while he sorts out the divorce. Those are just a few examples of her messages. I didn't see any explicit cheating type stuff, but I can't imagine he would have that conversation with my brother or a guy friend. I blew up, sent her screenshots, and told her to back the F off. She gave me a sideways apology and tried to justify her messages, so I decided to just ghost her. My husband and I reconciled, and we have a good relationship again after counseling, but I can't get past that. I feel bad because I want to be close to my brother still, but it's a package deal. So am I the idiot, am I the a-hole for not forgiving her and keeping contact minimal? Or should I just move on and pretend it didn't happen, which is what my husband suggests? I feel like I can forgive my spouse as we both treated each other poorly and have worked through it, but I've done nothing to her and don't feel like I need to keep her in my life after this. A few edits, I was expecting maybe 3 comments total, but I guess this was popular LOL. Thanks everyone for the feedback and advice. 1. She is not my husband's sister. She is the wife of my brother. I'm not sure why they decided it was cool to talk to each other outside of the family group. 2. The marriage problems started when our social support fell apart. All of the cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, childcare, and dog care fell on me, even though we both worked full-time jobs. I got angry, started having wine and watching Netflix instead of doing all of that. And with said wine, I also became more verbal about how I felt about all of that. It degenerated into both of us calling each other names and hating each other. These issues are long since resolved through counseling, and a lot of effort from both of us. Our marriage is in a good place now. 3. Sister-in-law used to be around my son a lot, either babysitting during the time she was a nanny early on for 3 months, or at family gatherings. She has one child who is grown now and recently moved out of their house. She wanted more, but had to have a hysterectomy. I think she wanted to adopt, but maybe my brother wasn't into that idea? Not sure exactly. 4. I am so naive I didn't actually see it as an emotional affair because it didn't occur to me that that was even a thing. I thought I must just be a bad person if that's how they thought about me, but now I'm seeing that this isn't logical and what they did was wrong in a lot of ways. I am thinking of how to tell this all to my brother, as now that I see it's inappropriate, and it also is offensive to him. I didn't realize that until now. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Wow, I'd be so hurt. Is there context with the texts that perhaps make them less vile? Were you drinking a lot at that time, so that's what prompted those comments? I'm not justifying it, but maybe if there were more of an understanding about why she would text such things, it would be possible to forgive her. If you do decide to forgive her, I think I'd still be distant. You can visit each other, but focus on your relationship with your brother, not necessarily her. Anyone who said they'd come and take my child while my spouse sorts out the divorce would have a huge hill to climb before I'd be more than cordial with them. Comment 2, not the idiot. Your husband is really to blame for this. It was his mistake to spout off to your sister-in-law about you when he should have brought his concerns to you or to a marriage counselor, but not her. He has essentially ruined whatever relationship you had with her, and of course, probably doesn't want to take any of the blame, and probably does not want to apologize for it either. I realize the two of you are in a good spot, but damn, I would have a hard time trusting him with anything after that. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, the other day, my brother called me out of the blue. He never calls unless it's something big, so I knew something was up. Turns out he found the screenshots I sent to my sister-in-law years ago. He was furious, not with me, but with her. He had no idea she'd been meddling in my marriage like that. He told me they had a massive fight, and she confessed to more than just those messages. She admitted she'd been in love with my husband for years. My brother was heartbroken, and so was I. It felt like a betrayal all over again. I was angry, but then my brother did something unexpected. He asked me to forgive her. He said he still loved her despite everything and that they were going to try and work things out. He begged me not to cut her off because it would mean losing me and my son too. I was torn. On one hand, she had crossed a line, but on the other, my brother was desperate and I could hear it in his voice. I agreed to meet with her, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. We sat down, and she cried, saying how sorry she was, how she never meant to hurt anyone. She said she was just lonely after her kid left and that she got carried away. I wanted to be furious, to scream at her, but looking at her, all I saw was someone broken and ashamed. I didn't forgive her, not really, but I told her I'd try for my brother's sake. It made me look weak, maybe even desperate, but family is complicated. Just when I thought we could move past this, my husband lost his job. The company he worked for went under, and we were left scrambling. The stress was back, and old wounds started to reopen. We were arguing again, and I was scared we'd end up back where we started. But then, my sister-in-law did something I never expected. She offered my husband a job at the company she worked for. It was a good position, one that he was qualified for, and it would help us stay afloat. I was conflicted. After everything, how could I accept her help? But then I realized this was her way of making amends. It wasn't just about the job, it was about her acknowledging the pain she caused and trying to do something right. It was a step towards something better, a way to mend not just her relationship with my brother, but with us too. So, we took the job. It was a lifeline we desperately needed, and it changed the dynamic of our family. We started to heal, slowly. My husband and I got back on track, and my brother and sister-in-law began to patch things up. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Thanks for hearing me out. My partner's dad and brother call me a snob for not asking permission to propose. So after 10 years together, I fake invest in their doomed business and watch them fail. Background. My partner and I are in our mid-30s and have been together for over 10 years. We have 2 kids and have been living together since the day we met. Neither of us were ever bothered about getting married, and since we had kids early in our relationship, it never felt like a priority. But recently, my partner has been hinting that she doesn't like having a different surname from me and the kids, and that she'd like to be married. So, a couple of months ago, I asked her to marry me. She said yes, and we started planning our small wedding, registry office with close family, then some sort of celebration/reception to be confirmed. I recently learned that my fiancé's father is furious that I didn't ask him for permission before proposing to his daughter. This has caused my fiancé to have doubts and feel guilty for upsetting him. I find this situation utterly perplexing. Here's why I find it strange. My fiancé's parents are not together. Her dad left her mom when she was a couple of months old and provided no financial support or other involvement. Her mom raised her by herself while working full-time and struggling to make ends meet. Her dad reappeared during her late teens and managed to reintegrate himself into her life. Nowadays, my fiancée has a functional but distant relationship with her dad. She has a half-brother from one of her dad's failed relationships, and he has known their dad since birth. Her brother lives with their dad because their dad is unemployed and living in public housing. Her brother himself is also unemployed and hopes to receive a settlement from a car accident he was in 8 years ago. Her half-brother is also angry that I didn't ask permission before proposing. He has called me offensive names and threatened to physically confront me when we next meet. This isn't the first time he has physically confronted someone, as he has done so with the mother of his child. My fiancé's dad and brother have always had an issue with me. They view me as a snob because I went to university, and her dad has made comments about finding it embarrassing that my wife has to work. He believes it reflects poorly on me as a provider for my family. However, it's clear that he lacks insight and the ability to reflect on his own circumstances. I manage to tolerate her dad because we rarely see him, maybe a few times a year at most. We once lent him several £1,000s to pay off his credit card debt, which was spiraling out of control. We have accepted that we will never get that money back. Despite all of this, my fiancée is genuinely upset that we have offended her dad. She has asked me to apologize to him and do things properly. While I am willing to do many things for my fiancé, I cannot bring myself to do this. It feels disrespectful to my future mother-in-law, who I believe should be the one I ask permission from, if anyone needs to be asked. Am I the one at fault here? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, you have a fiancé problem. She is not only putting her father and brother before you, but also herself. Why is she seeking approval from a deadbeat? Why is she telling you that he matters more to her than you? Her behavior is disrespectful to you and your relationship. At this point, call off the wedding and get her therapy to deal with her issues with her father. You deserve better. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Tell her you will ask him for her hand in marriage if, before the wedding, he repays all the money with interest that he borrowed from you. I don't see why your girlfriend, her father, or her half-brother think it's important for you to do things properly when it has clearly never been important for them. It also seems a bit pointless, given that you already have children. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more of this mess. So, after the whole fiasco with her dad and brother, things took a turn. My fiancée, bless her heart, decided she wanted to smooth things over. She set up a dinner, just her dad, her brother, and us. I knew it was a bad idea, but I went along with it for her sake. The dinner was tense from the start. Her brother was throwing me dirty looks the whole time. Then, out of nowhere, he slams his fist on the table and says he's got news. Turns out he's been talking to a lawyer about his car accident from years ago, and he's got a lead on finally getting that settlement. He's looking at me like I'm supposed to be impressed or something. But here's the kicker. He wants us to invest in his business idea with the settlement money. He's always been full of schemes, none of which ever panned out. I tried to be polite, but I told him we'd need to think about it. That's when her dad chimes in, saying it's the least we could do after the disrespect I've shown. The night ended with them expecting an apology and a check. My fiancée was quiet the whole ride home. She's torn, wanting to keep the peace, but knowing deep down it's a bad move. I didn't want to add to her stress, so I just held her hand and said we'd figure it out. A few days later, my fiancé comes to me, eyes all hopeful, and asks if we can just give them the money. She thinks it'll fix everything. I'm looking at her, seeing the woman I love, wanting so badly to make her happy. So I agree. I tell her we'll do it. We'll invest in her brother's plan. She's over the moon, and for a moment, I feel like I've done the right thing. But then things get worse. Her brother's business idea? It's a car repair shop. The guy's never fixed a car in his life, and he wants to set it up in a part of town that's more potholes than pavement. I've got this sinking feeling, but I've already promised. We hand over the money, and her brother's acting like he's won the lottery. Her dad's suddenly all buddy-buddy with me, but it feels off. I can't shake the feeling that I've just made a huge mistake. The aftermath is a disaster. The shop is a money pit. There's always some unexpected cost, and her brother keeps calling for more cash. I'm watching our savings drain away, and I can't bring myself to tell my fiancé I told you so. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, her brother's settlement falls through, no money's coming in. The shop's on the brink of closing before it even opens. Her dad's nowhere to be found, and her brother's blaming me for not giving enough support. Now, I'm sitting here wondering how I let it get this far. I wanted to protect my fiancé from her family's drama, but instead I've dragged us further into it. I've put our future at risk for a peace that was never going to last. Thanks for reading through this. It's been one hell of a fortnight. My stepdad hired a PI to dig up dirt on my real dad at a baby reveal party. So I exposed his criminal record to his boss and got him fired. I called the cops on my stepdad 2 summers ago. My mother and his relationship started the moment she caught my hurtful father cheating on her through text messages he was sending to his mistress. I will add that my stepdad confessed his feelings to my mom a whole year before the events of my parents' separation took place, which she turned down because she was literally in a marriage already. The first time I met him, I wasn't sure what to think, honestly. I needed to know if he would treat my mom, older brother, and me respectfully. Well, let's just say that my stepdad started attempting to control me as if he were my dad. This pissed me off, and I had expressed this to my mom multiple times, but to no avail. She was head over heels for him, so she would pardon him for anything incorrect he did. So fast forward to 2 summers ago, when I invited my best friend of 7 years over to my house for a sleepover. We were both watching TikTok and laughing our butts off at all the random videos on our For You pages. Sometime in between, my mom barged into my brother's room, to which my brother told her to please leave him alone, with reason. He's an adult and deserves his privacy. I guess my then extremely drunk stepdad got mad at my brother's disrespect towards my mom, and he turned off the electricity entirely, including the Wi-Fi. My brother, pissed off because he was in the middle of a game, stepped out of his room, enraged. My drunk stepdad came out, and they started a yelling match, though my stepdad was noticeably slurring his words. It wasn't until I heard my mom's blood-curdling scream from the backyard that I decided to see what was happening, telling my best friend to stay in my room because I didn't want her involved in this mess. I ran towards the backyard, and there was the disturbing image of my stepdad choking my brother in a headlock and beating him up badly to the point he was throwing up. Mind you, my uncle and grandma were living with us too, so they tried to fight back for my brother, and my stepdad pushed both of them to the ground with force. My stepdad started yelling that he was better than my dad. My mom was the only one who was not doing anything, watching as my brother was literally fighting for his life. I called the cops as soon as I got back inside to report a case of domestic violence. At this point, I was in tears, and my best friend was trying her best to comfort me. The cops came quickly and arrested my stepdad. The paramedics came a bit later to take my brother to the hospital as he was in critical condition. My mom was screaming at me for calling the cops on my stepdad, and she ended up bailing him out of jail the next day, which ended with everyone but me getting kicked out of the house because, in my stepdad's words, he didn't want those traitors in his house. My grandma and uncle were meant to testify for my brother, but my mom threatened to leave them homeless or get them deported, and they ended up not going to court. So am I the idiot for having called the cops? Should further legal action have been taken in this scenario? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Wow, you have a really worthless mom. A despicable, killer-enabling, selfish mom. I can't say what I think about stepdad. I'll be banned from Reddit as a whole, not the idiot, and please get these people away from hurtful mom and stepdad. Comment 2. The biggest piece of shit here is definitely the mother. Just watched as her son was slowly being ended the life of because she's in love. How pathetic. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. Well, things have only gotten crazier since then. After my stepdad kicked everyone out, my brother was still in the hospital, and I was stuck at home with my mom and him. It was like walking on thin ice every day. I tried to keep my head down, but it was tough living with someone who had hurt my family so much. Then, out of nowhere, my mom tells me she's pregnant. I couldn't believe it. She was over the moon, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just another way for my stepdad to keep her tied to him. My brother, still recovering, was furious when he found out. He said it was like rewarding my stepdad for his behavior. A week later, my mom and stepdad threw a big baby reveal party. It was supposed to be a happy event, but the tension was thick. My uncle and grandma, who were now staying with a distant relative, showed up despite everything. I guess they wanted to keep the peace for my mom's sake. During the party, my stepdad pulled me aside. He had this smug look on his face and said he had a special job for me. He wanted me to be the one to cut the cake and reveal the baby's gender. I didn't want to do anything for him, but my mom was watching with hopeful eyes, so I agreed. I cut the cake and it was blue inside. Everyone cheered, but then my stepdad announced that he had a surprise. He had hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on my real dad. He said he did it to protect our family. He revealed in front of everyone that my dad had another secret family and that he'd been lying to us for years. My mom broke down crying. I was in shock. I felt betrayed by my real dad, but also sick that my stepdad was using this to make himself look better. It was a twisted game to him. The party ended in chaos. My uncle and grandma left early, and I retreated to my room. I didn't know who to be more angry at, my real dad for his lies or my stepdad for exposing them in such a cruel way. A few days later, my mom had a miscarriage. It was devastating. She was a wreck, and even though I resented my stepdad, I couldn't help but feel sorry for her. My stepdad, though, he acted like nothing happened. He even had the nerve to say it was probably for the best since we had enough drama in our lives. I was angry and confused. I wanted to be there for my mom, but I also wanted to escape. I started spending more time at my friend's house, the one who was with me the night I called the cops. She was the only one who seemed to get what I was going through. Then, the bomb dropped. My friend confessed that she had overheard my stepdad talking to someone on the phone the night of the party. He had planned the whole thing, the private investigator, the reveal, even the baby reveal party. It was all a setup to make himself the hero and to push my real dad further out of the picture. I didn't want to believe it, but it made sense. My stepdad had been manipulating us all along. He wanted to be the only one my mom could rely on. And the worst part? I played right into his hands by cutting that cake. I haven't confronted him yet. I'm not sure what to do. My mom is still too fragile from the miscarriage, and I don't want to cause her more pain. But I can't shake the feeling that I've been played for a fool. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.